Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments, and thank you for joining me. This is part 10 of my 18,000 subscriber Q&A series. Now, don't be alarmed, but part 11 was already uploaded to YouTube. Part 10 had an issue. The original video that I recorded was corrupted, so I had to shoot it again. So that's why part 11 was uploaded first. Make no mistake, this is a brand new segment of the 18,000 subscriber Q&A series. The next segment will, of course, be part 12. Because part 11 is already uploaded. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the questions. First question, Sean, how do you propose a longtime collector who has a very large collection of animation production art or any collectible in general go about culling their collection? If they haven't kept up with the market for over a decade, how should they approach auction houses like Heritage? Should they allow these places to go through their collection and cherry pick? Is auction consignment better if you're unwilling to list by yourself on eBay and or through private collector groups? Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Let me just state this. If you do have a collection that you know a lot of the big boys, the big auction houses in the antiques and collectibles trade, they handle those items, it doesn't hurt to send them an email with a couple of pictures and a listing of what you have to see if they're interested. That's the way you get the ball rolling. So for instance, you have a collection of animation production art. I would reach out to Heritage Auctions, potentially Hakes Auctions, possibly even, depending on what you have and the value of the collection, Swan Auction Galleries. They have a limited presence in this market. Overall, they're more into posters, prints, literature, books, and the like. However, they may too be interested in this collection. So I would reach out to multiple auction companies. Again, send them a list of what you have, snap a couple of pictures, and see what they say. Now, make no mistake, you may come across an auction company where they're interested in like 80% of the collection, and they don't want 20% of the remaining collection because they don't think it's going to sell that well. If that's the case, you may want to consider consigning just the 80% and then trying to sell those other lesser quality pieces on your own. Most auction companies are not going to guide you wrong because always remember their success is directly linked to your success. The more money you sell the collection for, the more money they make. So in the end, auction companies are not here to mislead you. Now, it is true if you're trying to get a consignment with one of the big boys, like Sotheby's or Christie's, they have an extremely high threshold for most items. Sotheby's and Christie's and Bonneman's and all these other top tier companies, they typically cater to the high-end art market where they're used to getting consignments of paintings worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars or more. So depending on the auction company, you just have to be cognizant of what type of pieces you have in your collection. Case in point, let's say that you have a vintage toy collection and you're thinking of consigning it to either Hakes or Heritage. If it's all loose, well-worn pieces, they're probably not going to be interested in the collection. It's the wrong avenue for that type of collection. But it never ever hurts to reach out to these companies and say, hey, this is what I have. Are you interested? As long as it's done within reason. Because I can tell you, one of the complaints that I hear a lot from a lot of the major auction companies, I do speak on occasion, very limited, but to some of the consignment directors I've already engaged with several times just through my consulting business or through this channel or even through my own personal interest in the antiques and collectibles trade. And they do get a lot of emails where people think because graded video games are selling for a phenomenal amount at present time, if they find like a collection of Nintendo games in a basement, they'll reach out to the auction company and they'll be like, hey, what can I get for these? Would you be interested in the consignment? So unfortunately, in most cases, a lot of auction companies are used to getting emails from people where they're not interested in the consignment. The value of the items in question is too low. Case in point, I'll give you another example here. If you're going to consign like Heritage Auction signature sales, whether it's coins, currency, video games, comic books, whatever it is, usually there is a set value amount for each lot. So I think heritage is either $500 or $1,000 per lot to consign to a sale like that. But still, if you have a collection, I always encourage you, reach out to the auction company, see what they say. If you want help behind the scenes, I can help you negotiate consignment rates. I can help you with the interaction between the auction house if it gets to that point where you're thinking of signing a consignment deal. All you got to do is email me if you want to use my services. Shameless plug. My rates are very affordable. reservedinvestments@gmail.com. Do not tell the auction company that you are working with me, though. I will guide you on the back end. It's the easiest way to do it. I've done this a lot now. I have a lot of experience with this. Some auction companies are better to work with than others. This is why I tell you guys, this ties into a lot of the advice I provide on this channel. Always avoid niche markets. If you have a collection of, let's say, marbles or fishing lures or even like coin-op games or vintage advertising, some of those items, there's only a handful or one or two auction companies that specialize in those items. So you're pretty much stuck taking the consignment rates that those auction companies offer in those niche markets. This is why I tell you guys, if you're going to invest in antiques and collectibles from a financial standpoint, you need to go after the more popular collectibles that for the most part can be third-party graded. So for instance, if you're investing in coins, currency, Pokemon cards, sports cards, comic books, even to a lesser extent, graded vintage toys, even graded video games, at least there's more than one auction house that will take consignment of those items. And you can, if you have a very valuable collection, if you have a collection that a lot of the big boys are going to want, you can pretty much have a better chance at negotiating a favorable consignment rate. Case in point, I have a large collection. You guys know this by now. I have a very valuable collection of coins and graded currency. Because those items are third-party graded, because they're worth a significant amount, if I ever want to let go of that collection, I can approach heritage auctions, I can approach Stacks and Bowers, I can approach Great Collections, I can approach any other auction house who would be interested to take that collection, and I can help negotiate myself a better consignment rate because those items are inherently liquid and they are also very valuable. So all is what the auction company has to do with a graded collectible. They just have to literally write a description and snap a couple of pics of the item in question. They don't even have to assess the condition of those items. That's the point of third-party grading. So it's very easy for an auction company to get that consignment, put it up for bid, and the turnaround is much quicker than most other collecting categories. So anytime you have an item like this or a collection and you're not sure of the market, I don't know why everybody is scared of auction companies. If you reach out, you're not committed to anything. You're just starting the negotiation, the email exchange process where you're learning what's involved in them taking hold of this collection and turning it into money for you. And that's the name of the game in the antiques and collectibles trade. It's all about the Benjamins. I hate to say it because I know a lot of you guys get offended when I say that because a lot of us, myself included, we have an emotional attachment to these items. But for auction companies, this is a business. For grading companies, this is a business. You need to look at it from that standpoint if you're attempting to invest in these items, especially over the long term. Next question. Sean, here we go again. Pokemon question. Prices for collectible card games have skyrocketed. Speculators and hoarders are in a frenzy for all new releases. Even new games like Star Wars and Lorcana are selling out at retail. Are we in a junk wax era style bubble for these items? We are in a speculative frenzy for these items. Again, I repeat this in almost every video. This is all you need to know about what's going on in the current modern era market for Pokemon and related products. These good times, these high prices will not last forever. You need to understand that. And if you are one of these Timmys, Kimmies, and Poindexters that are paying an exorbitant premium for these products at present time, you have to be very careful. There are a lot of better areas in the antiques and collectibles trade to park your money over the long term. Now, if you're one of these people, you're coming into the market short term, you're flipping it, making a profit, You do you. You take that money and you put it in something else. Put it in either index funds or other antiques and collectible categories that have much better long-term prospects than modern era Pokemon cards. Again, I'm not against, if you have an emotional attachment to these items, if you want to diversify resources in the modern era Pokemon cards, provided you understand the risks of that market, that's fine. But make no mistake, again, I got to echo what Rudy with Alpha Investments also says about this market. I do not think modern era Pokemon products are going to be able to outperform the S&P 500 index over the next 5-10 years consistently like it has in the past. You have to put this all in perspective. Enough said on this. I've talked enough about Pokemon. I've talked enough about collectible card games on this channel and in this Q&A. Let's go to the next question. Sean, what are your thoughts on collecting some of the world's greatest ancient coins in the 100 Greatest Ancient Coin book? In the long term, will those go up in value? Okay, here is the book in question. They also have done a book on this, 100 Greatest U.S. Coins, 100 Greatest U.S. Pieces of Currency. There's a lot of books like this in this series. And really what this is it's almost like a perfect, I don't know how to explain it other than like a coffee table book where you put it out and people can page through it and people can get an idea of these interesting relics. Now, I do like the market for ancient coins, especially now that NGC has started to grade these pieces. What I will tell you though is, as with any type of book that talks about the 100 most popular comic book characters, the 100 most popular video games of all time, yes, this gives you an idea of what is popular and well-known in the market. This, however, is not an investment book. That's what I need you guys to understand. So don't get me wrong. If you're going after some of the items that are portrayed in this book and you're buying them right, you're getting them third-party graded, you're not paying exorbitant premiums for the items, yes, you most likely will do okay over the long term. Your holdings are not going to go to zero. But for the most part, you need to realize that any book like this, it's really not an investment book. It's just telling you what pieces are the most popular in that series, whether it's ancient coins, US coins, pieces of graded currency, video games, comic books, the 100 greatest Star Wars toys of all times. You see where I'm going with this? You just have to use caution. But it does put these pieces front and center. So if somebody is learning about ancient coins and they spot this book, it's a good starting point. So you could do a lot worse than not taking the advice of the coins, of buying the coins in this book. But at the same token, or I should say on the same side of the coin, you have to be careful that this is not investment advice. As long as you have a good, valid perspective as to what you're doing, and you're not going all in over your head in a market you know nothing about, or you're not going into debt, you should be okay. Just use caution. Remember, guys, there are a lot of risks in investing in rare coins, investing in currency. Sometimes I think on this channel, because I talk to you about the fact that the coin and currency market is very liquid. There's a lot of money flowing into that market. Some of you guys get the idea that I'm actually propping up that market from an investment standpoint. You still have to understand the idiosyncrasies of that market. You have to understand the market dynamics. You have to understand that that is a very mature and sophisticated market. You can lose your proverbial ass investing in those pieces. Make no mistake, they're just as risky as other collecting markets. It's just they're more stable. They're less volatile over the long term. As a matter of fact, there is a book that I am going to eventually bring up on this channel. Somebody actually did the research where they actually went back over like 150 years and they looked at the prices of US rare coins, and you can actually see how much on average they've appreciated year after year. It is fascinating when you study that market because we have literally hundreds of years of history to go back and review the prices of those items. Now, of course, past performance is no guarantee of future results, but you can make a very strong case that since people have been collecting and coveting rare coins for hundreds of years, even in the United States, that trend is most likely going to continue. As a matter of fact, I said this before in another video. If you look at the financial results of a company like Heritage Auctions, a large portion of their revenue still comes from rare coins and currency. Even with the advent of them dealing now in everything from vintage toys to graded video games, still a large portion of their revenue comes from rare coins and currency. That's why a lot of auction companies devote so much attention to those markets, even in the year 2025. You're not seeing this with stamps. You're not seeing this with other collecting categories. Coins and currencies have the edge in that regard. Next question. Okay, sticking with currency in particular, what are your thoughts on colonial banknotes, meaning pieces of currency that were conceived at the beginning of the United States history? So if we go back to 1776 all the way up through like the early 1800s, the pieces of currency that were minted, colonial currency, that's what this person is asking about, particularly those with plates engraved by either Paul Revere or printed by Benjamin Franklin. So he's asking me about colonial notes that either used plates that were engraved by Paul Revere or were printed in particular by Ben Franklin. I honestly like this segment of the market. It has come a long way. It's still not on par with the popularity of collecting large size silver and gold certificates. Maybe this would be a good idea for me to do a video on this. I actually do have some third-party graded colonial notes in, I think if I recall correctly, PMG, PCGS graded 63 through 66 condition. I'd have to check my one safety deposit box. But I do know I have several notes in there from this era where I could do an interesting video on that because I haven't really talked too much about colonial notes on this channel. So let me know in the comments section below if you want to see me do a video on that segment of currency collecting. It is quite fascinating. A lot of those notes are more harder to come by than more popular large size silver and gold notes. And what's interesting is in most cases, the prices are still relatively affordable, comparable to large size notes. So you still can find, I hate to use this term in the antiques and collectibles trade, but I'm going to use it anyway. You still can find some deals in this market. Now, it's not like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you used to be able to get colonial notes in like PMG, PCGS, 64 EPQ condition for like under $1,000. In some cases, you would even find them for under 500 bucks. People just really weren't interested in that market. Well, today the market has turned. The market has started to trend upwards. It's still not where I think it should be. But again, as I say before on this channel, the market doesn't have to agree with me. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. So yes, there is opportunity there if you want my honest opinion. The thing is, you got to remember, sophisticated market, and it's a long-term hold. You're going to have to hold those pieces 10, 20 years or more if you really want to eke out a good return. That's just in my opinion. Next question. Sean, thank you for everything that you do. What books do you recommend for someone looking into collecting Mexican gold coins from before 1921? Okay, there's no specific book I can point to that talks about strictly pre-1921 Mexican gold coins. What I would tell you to do, I don't know how much knowledge you have on the overall coin collecting market. I would first encourage you to read up, understand the idiosyncrasies of this market. Start with the book Coin Collector's Survival Manual, which was written by Scott Travers. I think you can get it anywhere from $20 to $30, depending on where you find it. I will also tell you, start studying books that deal with world coins. There really is no book that I know of off the top of my head that deals specifically with Mexican coins. So start learning world coins, and any book that talks about world coins is going to break it down by country, and eventually you will come across segments on Mexican coins, more specifically vintage gold Mexican coins. So that's where I would tell you to start. It's not like I can just tell you, hey, read this book. This book was written all about Mexican gold coins. And by the way, I'm pretty sure there probably is a book out there like that. I've just never taken the time to read it because usually my interests are US coins. I do dabble a little bit in world coins, but it's more in a limited fashion. I prefer, of course, because I live in America, US coins and ancient coins. but there are popular world issues that you can go after. So my advice to you would be find a book that deals with world coins and go from there. Next question. Sean, in previous videos, you've mentioned that you began investing from a young age, and perhaps due to your inexperience then, you've racked up quite a few horror stories. If you're comfortable with it, would you mind sharing some of them with us so that we could learn from it? Appreciate the work you've put in the channel, and congrats on 18,000 subscribers. Okay, I will answer this way. I don't mind sharing some of my experiences if it has relevance to what we're talking about, or I can help some of you avoid similar mistakes. What I will tell you is it wasn't just inexperience at that particular point in time. It was also a combination of me not knowing myself, and I also had a lot of unresolved childhood trauma. The best advice I can give you, and this is why I often recommend therapy to most people, meaning getting involved with a therapist, learning about your attachment style, whether you have a secure attachment style, whether you're like me, I have more of an avoidant attachment style. Some of you have an anxious attachment style. Some of you have some weird combination of both, a fearful avoidant attachment style, or heaven forbid, if you have borderline personality disorder, you probably have a disorganized attachment style. Whatever issues you face, whatever you're going through, you have to work through all that stuff. So the best advice I can give you, always remember the golden rule. If you don't heal what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. And no one wants to get into a relationship with somebody who is still trying to recover from all their childhood wounds. Nobody wants to get into a relationship, at least if you're emotionally healthy, with a toxic individual. This is why I usually tell men sometimes are susceptible, and I've been there, to women who suffer from cluster B personality disorders. If you're a dude that has childhood trauma and you get with a chick that has borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, you are in for a long ride, and it is going to be very dramatic, and it's also going to be very painful to you. And this goes for men even without childhood trauma. There are certain people out there that are just toxic in general. You don't hook up with them. You don't have sex with them. You don't get into relationships with them. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And if you get into therapy and you work through your issues, you will get to know yourself. You'll learn your strengths. You'll learn your weaknesses. You'll learn if you're suffering from major depressive disorder, or if whatever, maybe you just have some anxious and depressive tendencies. Maybe you have OCD. I'm just naming health issues here to try to help you guys out. You need to get to know yourself. You need to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and you need to fix all your core trauma. This is why, and I'm not going to get off on a rant on this, but this is why I laugh at you guys that come in my comment section and tell me, I'm red-pilled. I listen to Andrew Tate. You guys do not understand human psychology. You guys do not understand how attraction works. You guys do not understand attachment styles. Obviously, if you want to be an abusive fuck and you are 100% awesome 50% of the time, and you date a chick with a personality disorder like borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, you're going to have that person on a string, and you're going to play push-pull with them for many, many months, many, many years until that relationship finally ends. Are you going to be happy? No. Are you going to have a lot of weird, crazy sex? Yes. That's why I don't subscribe to all these stupid internet advice being propped up by Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, or any of these other guys. Case in point, I saw a video that just popped up to my feed, and it was one of those like reels. It was only like 60 seconds long, and I listened to it, and the guy's talking about how if you ignore women, women become obsessed with you. Well, yeah, if a chick has an insecure attachment style or a personality disorder, she has that type of biological makeup where she is going to be attracted to crazy. If you do that, though, with an emotionally healthy woman, a woman that you can actually have a long-term relationship with, guess what? She's going to ignore you. She's going to be like, look at this guy. This guy's crazy. He's just ignoring me. Fuck him. I'm going off to the next guy. And that's what's supposed to happen, guys. You really have to get to know yourself. You got to get to work on your childhood trauma. Otherwise, again, I'm going to say this quote again for you guys. If you don't heal what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. And unfortunately, the internet is all full of pickup artists and incels who just want toxic dating advice because they're chronically online and they think all this advice translates to them having success with women, with them getting matches on online dating, with them getting involved sexually with women without any of the relationship skills needed to actually have an emotionally healthy long-term relationship. You know, I'm one of those individuals who I no longer look for short-term mating opportunities. I'm looking for a relationship with somebody who meets my level of standards, meaning I want somebody emotionally healthy. I want somebody that I'm physically attracted to, somebody that I could spend the rest of my life with. I'm done dealing with a lot of these emotionally unhealthy women, or you just get to hit it and quit it, or else they pull you into a toxic relationship, and now it's these push-pull games. This is why I preach a lot of you guys really need to get into therapy. That's your solution. Not Andrew Tate, not Rollo Tomasi, not any of these other hucksters out there trying to sell you a book or a program or a get-rich-quick guide or Hustlers University or Trump, whatever it is. You guys need to understand your goal is to become emotionally healthy so that you can find someone else emotionally healthy. You guys can come together and you can build together. That's the goal. So that's the best advice I can give you. And unfortunately, in my early 20s, going all the way up, even through, I want to say until I got sick with celiac disease, because that's really when all this unfolded, where I had to learn myself. I got into therapy. I worked through a lot of my issues, and that's where I had enormous strength and growth, both in my professional career, in my financial life, in my dating life. That's where it all took place. That's why I would tell you, there is a major difference between the way that I look at the dating world, the way that I look at relationships now, than I was back when I was like 22 or 23 or even 28 or 29. And that's where you guys got to get to that point. Otherwise, you're going to be sucked in to these stupid incel or pickup artist communities, and you're just going to listen to all these peddlers of false information, and you're going to think that it's facts. Obviously, if you go work on yourself, you go to the gym, you work out, you get your money right, whatever that means. I just love when red pillars say that. Get your money right. Like that's something that actually has meaning. Meaning you get financially established. Obviously, you're going to have more dating opportunities. It's just like why I rail against. There's a lot of people out there that think college is worthless. I'm sorry to tell you, if you choose a smart major and you actually get college educated, that's something that women look for in the dating world. So if you're not getting any matches on Bumble or Tinder or Hinge or even, heaven forbid, Facebook dating or OkCupid, if you use those sites, it's probably because you are deficient in one of those areas. Women are attracted to a few traits that very few men have. It's intelligence, confidence, and kindness. And I'm not going to spend any more time in this video going through how you can show those traits to women that you're interested in, but those are the three traits. It's not looks, money, and status. I'm here to tell you, as a person with a 7-figure net worth, money does not help you in the dating world like you think it does. The only thing that money can do for you in the dating world, if you're looking for somebody emotionally healthy, you can hire a matchmaker. That's the best thing that it can do for you, and you have money for therapy to work through your issues. It is not the panacea of attraction you think it is. Most women that are attracted to money, it's because they don't have any of their own, or they have an extremely insecure attachment style. Most emotionally healthy women are not attracted to money. I'm sorry to tell you. That's all I'm going to say on this. Just always remember my golden rule. If you don't heal what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. And right now, we have 40% of them that are falling into the red pill, red wing, right wing rabbit hole, thinking that people like Andrew Tate have their best interests at heart. What these men need, they need a college education, they need to get into therapy, they need to get in the gym, and they also need to learn how to invest money. Not putting all their money in speculative assets like cryptocurrency, meme stocks, and Pokemon cards. And that's the problem that we have on the internet right now. Enough said. Next question. Sean, Say you were starting over with nothing but the knowledge you have, and you're in your late 20s, early 30s, with all basic life needs and investments handled. Where would you start your speculative collection or investing in these markets? So he's talking about investing, speculating in antiques and collectibles. Again, without knowing what you're interested in, it would be very hard for me to answer this question. What I would tell you, pick a mainstream, not a niche, a mainstream collecting market that you have an interest in. Learn all you can about that market and go slow. It's a marathon. It is not a sprint. There's absolutely no need to spend like $20, $30, $40,000 all in one shot buying whatever item you're currently obsessed with. That is completely ridiculous. So go slow, learn the market, and slowly diversify into that market. You're probably going to make mistakes as you go along. As you're new to some of these markets, just understand it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It's okay to lose a little bit of money if you are gaining knowledge in the process. Most of you out there, myself included, we are not on par with Warren Buffett. We are not going to be the next billionaire investor. And my background's in finance, for those of you that do not know. I know an awful lot about investing. I obviously know an awful lot about the antiques and collectibles trade because I've been in these markets since the age of 12. I'm trying to help you. Go slow. Be very careful on what information you consume on the internet and what advice you take. There's a lot of people out there that are telling you to put all your money, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, Lego, video games, whatever it is. Go slow. The person who usually gets to the finish line first usually loses in the antiques and collectibles trade. So if you're attempting to build a very valuable collection, I'll just pull this out of the air. Let's say that you want to go after vintage Pokemon cards. If you get into that market, you drop a couple $100,000 and you get this awesome collection in the next 6 months to a year, I can tell you, you most likely made a lot of mistakes. Most likely. Especially if you're holding that collection over the long term. Because you acquired it in too little of a span. You're supposed to dollar cost average into these markets over the long term. It's why I've been telling you guys, my coin and currency collection, I have been building over 20 years. My comic book collection, I have been building for decades. My vintage Pokemon collection, I've been building for almost 10 years now. So there's certain markets, even me, I dollar cost average into. I study the market, take a step back. Study the market, take a step back, do some research. Then I look at items I want to bid in. And you guys know my rule. If I'm bidding on 10 to 20 items, I may only win 1 or 2. I'm fine with that. Always remember, you have to use your head in these markets, not your heart. It's very easy to get sucked in. It's just like dating. It's very easy. Oh my gosh, this chick is wearing an awesome dress with heels. She's everything I want in a woman. Well, you don't even know. Is she crazy? Is she able to maintain a relationship? It's just like in the antiques and collectibles trade. You can really get pulled in with emotional attachment with these items. You have to go in with a logic mind, a sound mind, utilizing patience and research. Those are your friends. Hope that helps. I'm going to stop there for part 10. I assure you, any remaining questions will be answered in part 12, possibly part 13. I have to see how many remaining questions we have to get to. Let me know your thoughts, comments, any feedback in the comment section below. If you are subscribed to this channel, I will just quite possibly see you in another upcoming video. Thanks for watching.